Well, I was complimenting AJ, but
I compliment you all the time.
name one.
I can't remember now. You've really put me on the spot. I've told you before I thought you were funny.
No, you haven't.
Specific examples. Pretend there's a specific example.
You can just put one in later on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that time.
Hello, everybody. My name is AJ, and this is a podcast where I'm joined by Richard.
And I'm Richard.
What are you doing?
I haven't done that in a while.
What is that?
This is my D&D character sheet. I'm just doodling on it.
Can you not moonlight on this podcast, please?
Can I gaslight?
No, you've been doing that for a year and a half already. This is a podcast called the Cult Popture Podcast, and every couple of weeks on the Cult Popture Podcast, we like to do a thing called Film Franchise Fortnights.
Roughly every couple of weeks.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, when we feel like it. And that is when we binge watch an entire film franchise within the fortnight. We discuss it, we review it. Maybe we don't like the word review.
Yeah, I prefer the word discussion.
Maybe we come up with where we think it could go. We talk about if we liked it, if we didn't like it, what have you. A discussion.
Hey.
A scushy.
A mad scushy.
A mad scushy about the franchise of the week. And today...
Also, I know how you love to abbreviate things like mad scushy.
Yeah.
There's one that I said the other day that I thought you'd be proud of. I referred to a petrol station as a petty stash.
I love it. So today's Mad Scushy is going to be about the Lilo and Stitch franchise. This has been requested by a few people.
That's not why we did it.
That's not why we did it. We randomly choose it. Do not suggest franchises for us to cover. But I think this might be the first time I haven't really thought about this where the podcast or where the franchise we're doing is one that we've had people ask us to do.
Yeah, it's a art imitating life.
Yeah, there you go. So the Lilo and Stitch series, there are 4 movies in this series. They're all animated, they're all Disney, kind of post Golden Age Disney, but we'll get into that a bit later. And they consist of the first film, Lilo and Stitch, in 2002, which was directed by Chris Sanders and Dean DeBluis. And Richard, would you tell us, me, and the listeners, what is Lilo and Stitch about?
Lilo and Stitch is a tale as old as time about there's a mad scientist named Jumbo who creates an experiment.
He's an alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is in a far off galaxy.
Yeah.
And it's experiment 626. It's his 626th attempt at making something. And it's this cute little blue guy, and he, through a series of hilarious mishaps, he ends up crashing on Hawaii, the island. Well, it's actually
Series of islands,
yeah. Oahu. I'm going to presume
Hawaii. I thought it was Hawaii.
I'm going to presume that he lands on Oahu, but yeah, and then he befriends this little girl called Lilo, she's lost her parents. She lives with her older sister. She doesn't really sort of have her place, but they become friends and they find their place together.
Yeah, it's a beautiful... Can you do the line?
Ohana means family. Nobody gets left behind or forgotten.
Can you do it in Stitch's voice?
Ohana means family.
No, it's more... Ohana.
Yeah, that's good. You
I'm Fluffle. I was so proud of that voice when I was 10 years old. I was like, guys,
you should be proud of it now.
Watch my Stitch impression. Yeah, so...
and I'm sure you didn't just do one line as well. You would have been like, guys, watch my Stitch impression.
Like, and Hannon's family. I had the cadence down. I remembered being like, our Hannon's family. Family nobody gets left behind.
He doesn't repeat the word family.
Doesn't he?
No.
Ohana means family.
Yeah. Ohana means family, nobody gets left behind or forgotten.
Yeah.
Seems like you didn't have it.
No, well, clearly not. So, do you want to take a guess, take a stab in the dark on what Lilo and Stitch has on Rotten Tomatoes?
High 80s or low 90s.
Yep, 86.
Yeah.
Pretty popular movie. One of my personal favourites.
Yeah, same.
I feel like you and me, this was almost our Disney film because it came out after we'd been raised on them. But, like, it was a modern one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, like, something like Aladdin and Lion King feels like everyone's, whereas, like, our specific age group.
And it was
very
about
much
an
Lilo.
alien, like totally
Yeah.
like into what we know what I was
Yeah, I
into
remember
when I was
seeing
10.
it in the cinema.
Yeah, I think I did. I must have because I was obsessed with it, but I don't know if I did see it in the cinema. I can't remember. But anyway, a year later, the kind of sequel came out. I guess it's a sequel. We'll talk about this. It came out straight to DVD. It was called Stitch, the movie. And I, of course, yelled that because it's an exclamation mark after Stitch. That was directed by, and remember these names, Tony Craig and Bob Ganaway.
Okay.
Remember those names.
No.
What do you think that scored on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'd guess sub 40.
20%. Can you tell us what Stitch, the movie, is about?
So Stitch the movie is like a backdoor pilot for what would later become Lilo and Stitch the series. I believe it was originally going to be called Stitch the series, which is why the movie's called that. But they come to find out that, wait a minute, there are 625 other genetic experiments created by Jumbo, and they're like in these dehydrated pods, and there's the evil Dr. Hamsterville who wants to get his hands on the experiments, but they end up saving the day. But at the same time, they drop all of these dehydrated pods onto the island of Hawaii, which is a very wet place, and so they're like unleashed, and then it becomes their mission to find each experiment and give it its own rightful
Setting
place.
up the Lilo and Stitch TV series, which of course we couldn't really fit into the 2 weeks, but we will talk about it a little bit.
But so that movie ends with, there's one experiment called Sparky, because they need like an electrical charge to charge their spaceship, and the movie ends with them getting Sparky to power the old lighthouse that's too expensive to run. So it's like, Sparky's now got his place in the world.
Yeah, which is what the TV show.
Yeah, and then the head of the Galactic Federation or whatever says, you guys can be official agents, and that's your job to...
Yeah. Then in 2005, so 2 years after Stitch, the movie, we got Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, directed by Michael Labash and Tony Leonidas. Leonidas. And what do you think that has? Stitch, the movie. What do you think that has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'd more than Stitch, but less than half the difference between Stitch and Lilo and Stitch.
40%.
I was correct.
And can you tell us what Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch is about?
Basically, when Stitch was first created, his molecules weren't correctly charged, and so now he's going to turn evil, and then it ends up being fine.
Yeah, Lilo and Stitch 2 actually takes place between Lilo and Stitch 1 and Stitch, the movie, and I would call it the Prisoner of Azkaban of the series, because it doesn't have...
the best one?
No, not at all, sorry. Because it doesn't have... You know how Prisoner of Azkaban is the only Harry Potter that doesn't have Voldemort in it?
Right.
This doesn't have any of the bad guys in it. It doesn't have like a lot of what becomes the central mythos of Lilo and Stitch in it. And I think it's because I couldn't find this confirmed anywhere, but I almost feel like the team behind Stitch, the movie, and the TV series was almost like the B team, and then another separate division were like, we're going to make Lilo and Stitch too, and there was kind of not. It almost seems like there wasn't a lot of communication,
right? Yeah,
between
because
them.
I mean, Davley Chase, who played Lilo, didn't return. This is the only time she didn't play it because she was too busy with the series.
Exactly.
She was like, why don't you get Dakota Fanning to do it? Which
Who's
is weird.
more famous than Chase now, so there you go.
Well, and I think was at the time as well.
Yeah, she would have.
Because Davley Chase is S. Darko, and she's Samara from the Ring.
She's Samara, and she was in Beethoven's Fifth.
Is it? Oh, she's there. Cool.
And I think it's Davy. I've always pronounced it Davy Chase.
It probably is, I don't know.
Anyway, okay. Remember what I told you to remember those names before?
I've already forgotten them.
They were Tony Craig and Bob Ganaway.
Okay.
Lilo and Stitch's fourth movie was called Leroy and Stitch.
Yeah.
Came out in 2006, and that was directed. And I've copied this off Wikipedia. I know it's wrong. I don't think this is a crazy coincidence. That was directed by Robert Ganaway and Tony Craig. So unless by massive twist of fate, someone named Roberts and someone named Bobs worked on the same film series together, and someone named Tony Craig and someone named Tony Gregg worked on the same film series together. I'm thinking there is a mistake. What do you think Leroy and Stitch has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'd go between Stitch and Stitch 2.
It's actually the same. It's 40%. There you go. Tell us what
pretty good with mine.
Yeah, you're honing it.
So Leroy and Stitch is about. So this is the finale of the TV show, basically.
Yeah.
So it starts with they've just finished capturing, or not capturing, giving a purpose to all of the genetic experiments, and they get like, oh well, cool, you can have all these fancy jobs. So Jumba's allowed to go back to being an evil scientist. Pleakley, who I haven't mentioned yet, goes on to teach Earth studies at a community college, and Stitch is now the captain of the Galactic Federation. But the evil Dr. Hamsterville has other plans and forces Jumba to create an evil clone of Stitch called Leroy, and then there's a big final battle with
a bunch of Leroy clones.
With all the Leroy clones and versus all the 626 genetic experiments.
Yeah, and they're defeated when they play Elvis because...
Yes, that's a big part of these films. I feel like there's a lot that we're going to talk about later on. That
I'm trying to do that now, but I'm sure I've forgotten.
Like I didn't mention Pleakley. I never mentioned Cobra Bubbles.
No.
I haven't mentioned Gantu. I haven't mentioned 625, aka Ruben.
Yeah, I haven't even got written down how we're going to talk about Nani's thickness.
I barely mentioned Nani,
but we
let alone
will.
her thickness.
So Lilo and Stitch, as we talked about, has spawned not just one but 3 TV shows. Lilo and Stitch the series, which is the one we've been talking about, an anime called Stitch. I'm going to stop doing that now. And most recently, this year, actually, a Chinese-produced cartoon called Stitch and AI, which basically transposed Stitch with a different little girl.
Yeah. It's just, like, I know Stitch, the anime, has the same plot, but it just takes place in Japan.
Okay.
And it's real bad.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
That's real bad.
So, having the first film released in the early 2000s, after what is considered Disney's Renaissance period,
and after what is considered 9/11, the worst terrorist attack in
you kind of
US history.
Yep, you kind of 9/11'd my paragraph there. And also released sometime before the now predominantly CGI age of Disney films, Lilo and Stitch as a franchise feels very much like the one last call for alcohol for Disney. It's a turning point for the animation company as it closed up shop on the old ways and slowly transitioned into the new.
Well, sorry to interrupt. Is this this was before Home on the Range? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might have been. I think Home on the Range was 2004.
That would be like their last attempt, eh? And then Princess and the Frog was like a deliberate.
I've got both those films written down.
I should have known to trust you.
Well, no, you're right. The early 2000s are very much seen as a dark patch for Disney, which I think I always knew, but I didn't know until I was researching this that it's very much considered like Tarzan, Mulan were like the last 90s Disney movies, and then we either got ones that were bad, like Home on the Range, or average, like Princess and the Frog. And perhaps that's why Lilo and Stitch kind of feels like both a forgotten yet classic Disney movie, because it is considered very good, but it's also the shining light in this really dark patch for Disney's animation history. The original film was actually created out of a desire to make a quality animated feature for less money than the blockbusters from the 90s like The Lion King or Tarzan, in a similar way that Dumbo was created as a financially conservative chaser to the films Pinocchio or Fantasia in the early 1940s. Lilo and Stitch is also one of the last remaining remnants of the now defunct feature film to straight DVD model, which Disney had operated under for many years. So what we've got with Lilo and Stitch is like a fossil. Like it's the dying decay of what Disney doesn't really do anymore in multiple senses.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad one to go out on. Even the straight to DVD sequels, I didn't really like Stitch Has a Glitch, but I didn't mind the others. And
Stitch Has a Glitch has some nice stuff.
Yeah, it does. You're right, but it was probably my least favourite. We didn't talk about that. Shall we rank them? What's your...
Lilo and Stitch is one of my favourite movies of all time. And I I'd actually probably just go in release order for me.
Really?
Diminishing returns.
I would put Leroy and Stitch second. I quite like Leroy and Stitch. It made me really want to watch the TV show because it's like, I don't know, it just brought up this like, man, there's so much love and care that's gone into like making the series.
Do we want to talk about the TV show?
I haven't got a lot written down, but basically
like our experiences with it, basically.
I'd never really watched it.
Yeah, because I've probably seen every episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just hiding that one in your pocket.
I really liked the TV. I remember it has a really lame theme song. And
oh, hiya. Da, 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 oh, hana.
Come on, cousins, come on, bound. No, it's not that part. And then later on, then like Stitch does like a rap.
Yeah.
And then, I would always. So they play like marathons of it on the Disney Channel, and every time the theme song came on, I would mute it because I didn't want my family thinking I was real lame for watching this. What would obviously be a lame as hell TV show with this lame intro. But yeah, no, it was a great TV show.
Doing this podcast, not just with you, but with others who have come on, I've come to realize how much I was deprived of the Disney Channel growing up.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't watch any Disney Channel. I played, what was I playing the other day? I was at my friend's house doing something, and everyone was talking about Hannah Montana and Phil of the Future and stuff, and I was like, I never saw any of these shows.
That's really interesting.
I never ever saw them. I knew about Lilo and Stitch the series because I liked it, but not because I...
Yeah, well, I remember when Stitch, the movie, premiered. I remember it was like an event on Disney Channel. I remember like Saturday night or whatever it was premiering. I was like, guys, I'm like, Mum, Dad, I need the TV at this time.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I remember watching it. I was like, awesome. And then the TV show started. It was great. I'd say I probably have seen every episode. There's a handful that I remember distinctly. And then I never saw Leroy and Stitch until today. No. For some reason, I just never like saw the ending of it. But they did like, there was this random like batch of 6 episodes at the start of I think the second season where like Recess randomly went to Hawaii. Kim Possible had a mission in Hawaii. About that. The Proud Family had on, even though like the animation styles are different and Recess was off air already.
Yeah.
But that was cool.
What I quite like about sort of the TV show, but I mean, Leroy and Stitch, I got the gist of it as well, was like there's a real devotion to like continuity. Like it's like continuity takes quite a lot of priority, and it's like we saw this with Beethoven where it doesn't need to because the audience doesn't care. Yeah, the audience isn't gonna be like, but you said this in one episode and in this in the other episode. For example, in Leroy and Stitch, when the Leroy clones are defeated by hearing Elvis at the end, they start glitching out in exactly the same way we see Stitch glitch out and Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch has a glitch.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's real interesting because it's like that movie feels ignored in the rest of the series, or because I kind of separate as the TV movies and the other two movies.
Yeah, well, the Stitch and Leroy and Stitch are very much just feature length pilot and finale of the show.
They're both barely over an hour.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Stitch 2.
No, it's not either. Also in Leroy and Stitch, there are, of course, numerous appearances by the other 625 experiments, which feature over the TV show. And Leroy is explicitly clarified as being experiment 629, as both 627 and 628 appear in the show.
Yeah, what's 628? Because 627 is an evil one, because Stitch is like, I'm the fucking man, I captured all these experiments, and then Jumbo's like, oh, you think you're so cool, well, I'm gonna make it a better experiment than you. It's gonna be better at everything, and then they actually just can't beat it, which is stupid that Jumbo would do that. But then they end up defeating it because this is one of the episodes I remember, is that he also gave him like a heightened sense of humor. So Stitch just like, They say that he's laughing real hard at something and he gets distracted or like he like pretty much gets knocked unconscious, and so when he's battling Stitch keeps on like knocking himself on the nuts and like doing all this funny stuff, and then he laughs so hard that he like shuts down and they dehydrate him and put him away because that's like they decide this is the only experiment we can never fix. Which is kind of macabre for such a positive show. Yeah, but like he's made to be uncurable. Yeah. And 6 to 8, from what I read, I haven't seen that episode, but the end of that episode, Jumbo like
puts the little dehydrated 6 to 8 in a box, and he's like, well, definitely not you then. So I don't know, I thought that was cool because like I love good continuity, but if I was writing this show, I'd just be like, yeah, Leroy's 628. Whatever. Like, you know, like, I don't know, I probably wouldn't, but like I would forgive myself for doing that. It wouldn't seem like such a big deal, but seeing it in practice, not being done properly, I actually quite like.
Yeah.
The other thing I really like about this franchise that I wrote down here was that the
Stitch is real cute.
The Stitch is, well, kind of.
Yeah. Is it the lifeguard in the first one? Is that
No.
the other thing you really
No,
like?
but there's a lifeguard in all of the films actually, who's like a sunburnt fat dude who always drops his mint chocolate chip ice cream.
He's a tourist or whatever. He's just a local. No, I'm talking about the lifeguard.
Oh, you mean the hot one?
Yeah.
No, yeah, we can talk about how thick.
There's just this random, real like sexy lifeguard, and like if you type into Google like Lilo and Stitch, it'll be like lifeguard hot, lifeguard sexy.
Oh, that's great. No, it's not. I wasn't going to talk about that. I was going to talk about how the franchise really nails character development. And it kind of like rivals Pokemon. It's very reminiscent of Pokemon and how like all of the experiments have a consistent art style. A lot of them have like Stitch's eyes, like, and the ones that don't are just kind of like shrinked versions of Stitch's eyes.
Yeah,
and,
well, they have a reason behind it.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting because 625, which is 626, would have just been a random arbitrary number selected by the writers for the first film.
Yeah.
They'd be like, yeah, experiment 626. That sounds good. Kind of sounds like Stitch, vaguely.
Stitch to Stitch.
Yeah. And so...
Do you reckon the original title of the movie was Stitch to Stitch?
Yeah, definitely. And that actually, like, not doomed, but, like, put on the plate of the people who would eventually make the TV show, you got to make 625 episodes, which they didn't. They made 39.
Yeah, that's
or something.
insane. Imagine if there was actually 625 episodes.
I mean,
of the show.
I kind of wish there was.
It would be running as long as The Simpsons.
So the show, the Lilo and Stitch show, they just don't show them capturing them all. Is that what I'm to understand?
I'd say they probably... So there's 65 episodes of the show.
Yeah.
They probably capture somewhere between 80 and 100 at that time. Because there's some episodes where he captures like 5. Like the one with 627 starts with him just capturing like, you know,
and then
helping,
in
like,
Leroy and Stitch, they establish that they've already caught them.
Yeah.
Caught them all.
Yeah, but like... Yeah, it's weird. Like, some of them are just real dumb. And we haven't mentioned Myrtle as well.
Oh, yeah.
Who's like the Sarah of this franchise.
Sarah, of course, being from Land Before Time.
Yeah, she's like this bully who is just real mean to Lilo, and then in Leroy and Stitch, you know, she has this dog that's actually a genetic experiment, but it looks like what kind of dog is that?
Like a poodle?
It's not. I don't think it's a poodle. Like a Bichon Frise.
Yeah.
And they realise that its home is with Myrtle, so that she has something to love. And then she's just a total bitch to her again.
And then they make two jokes in a row, two ripping jokes in a row about how Myrtle's dad left. It's real weird. It was very Family Guy. I guess so, but like...
Yeah, Myrtle's a bitch. Actually, I was going to mention... Sarah on this podcast, Cera, that is, from Land Before Time. If you don't know my feelings, and until this extreme AJ's feelings on Sarah, go back and listen to our Land Before Time podcast. But Lilo's kind of like a forgivable Sarah.
I love Lilo. I think Lilo's a great character.
Yeah, she's kind of an annoying bitch, but she gets away with it.
Well,
she learns lessons, but she is still really grating and annoying, and like I probably wouldn't want to be friends with her.
I think it's similar. Did you ever see Edge of 17?
Nah.
So one thing that I quite liked about Edge of 17, and the same with Lilo's characterization, is that I find it very hard to invest in an unlikable protagonist, right?
Which is interesting because you're so unlikable yourself.
I'm not my own protagonist. You are. You're my protagonist, Richard.
I'm even worse than you, Ed.
But in Age of 17 and Lilo and Stitch as well, you kind of see what's behind the behavior.
Yeah, right.
Like right at the start of Age of 17, you see her dad die in front of her, and it's a bummer, and she's just kind of like standoffish, and that's actually what's attractive about the character is that it's like,
and that it's played by Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, mate.
start doing. I don't know enough Stitchies to.
Okay, yeah, actually, I was going to bring this up as well. So, is your point finished?
Yeah, man.
Are you quite finished? Stitch only has like 3 or 4 lines. Like he just randomly can speak English sometimes, but like there's like, Kushi Baba, and like
Yeah, like it's like saying "fuck you," like
yeah,
Kushi Baba, something like that.
and Mr. Nalaquista, that sometimes means fuck you.
Okay.
But yeah, it changes. And I think the Lilo and Stitch theme song, there's that bit where it's like, it says like 4 things, and that's just all of his catchphrases. But they mean different things every time.
Right.
And so it's like you can either just have him say random syllables or like have one, but just having 4 that you just rotate to mean anything just feels kind of weird.
No, I agree. Speaking of Stitch specifically, did you know, Richard, that Chris Sanders, who is one of the directors of the first film and original creator and voice actor for Stitch, had originally intended for the character to appear in a children's book he'd been writing in 1985.
I actually do remember reading that back when the movie came out.
Yeah, and he retooled the character to pitch to Disney and changed the original setting of Kansas to Hawaii because he wanted like a desolate area, apparently. And no other big animated films had taken place in Hawaii at that time. To quote Sanders, animation has been set so much in ancient medieval Europe. So many fairy tales find their roots there, that to place it in Hawaii was kind of a big leap. But that choice went on to colour the entire movie and rewrite the story for us. And I agree.
Yeah,
I wouldn't remember this movie if it wasn't in Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii's like another character in the film, which is so lame to say, but it's true.
The setting's really like a character.
Yeah, no, it totally is though. Like the fact that Elvis is huge in Hawaii because he did all his films there is like a huge part of these films.
Is that why?
Yeah.
I forgive it now. I watched all 4 films being like, what's with Elvis? Like, why do they...
Yeah, no, Elvis is huge in Hawaii because he filmed a bunch of movies there.
I actually wondered if maybe Lilo and Stitch was a period piece, that like one of those ones that doesn't tell you, like how The Incredibles is set in the 50s, but it never like explicitly mentions it. Did you know that? Incredibles is set in the 50s.
It's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
It is.
I 100% do not believe you.
It's all but confirmed, I think.
Give me any evidence.
The aesthetic, the cars, the way of living, the nuclear family, the newspapers, I think, say the 1950s. I don't know. That's a confirmed thing.
No, fuck off.
Anyway, in similar fashion, I thought maybe Lilo and Stitch was set in the past because all the movies they watch are black and white, and Elvis is real big.
Yeah, the movie thing I think is like to show how sort of odd Lilo
antiquated.
is. Yeah, and that's like
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, the Elvis thing is just as a Hawaii thing,
right?
But the thing I love also about how this is set in Hawaii is the look of it, the aesthetic of it, how it's all watercolor backgrounds with just animation on top of that. It looks really good. I really like that.
But then I also found out that remembered that Cobra Bubbles, who's like the Men in Black character, specifically mentions the 1973 Roswell incident in the first film. So it's at least past 1973. So probably modern day. I think they have cell phones and stuff in it as well.
Yeah, there's, I think it might be in, I can't remember which one it's in. I think it's in Stitch or Stitch 2. But they, David, Nani's like sometimes boyfriend, goes, I'm getting you a cell phone.
That's right. How are you going on that Incredibles factoid?
I found it, The Incredibles, set in the 1960s, ohmydisney.com. And that's the only thing I found. And I'm just going to pull that up to read now. One thing you'd never notice about The Incredibles. Would you guys believe us if we told you that we think The Incredibles is set in the early 1960s?
You're going to hang me up on this because I said the 50s, not the 60s. Like, so I'm technically wrong.
Brad Bird's watchword for the whole movie was that it should seem like the early 60s vision of the future. TV's Johnny Quest and Walt Disney's original Tomorrowland. So you have things like the monorail on the island, which feels like it was designed in the early 60s. Let's take a close look at the date on Bob Parr's newspaper. It said Monday, May 16th, 1962.
There you go.
Oh, the fact that, like, one of the is the fact that Helen uses a corded phone. In 2004. Bob's office tech. Yep, he's got a computer. All the retro cars. A kid on a bike. No, fuck this. This is stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. You're right. I'm sorry that I told you something you didn't know, but that's okay. I'll just.
Okay, wait. So where did you read about it? Where did you hear?
Just a thing I've known.
Nah. This
Maybe I
is dumb.
saw it on like Imgur or something back in the day.
No. Oh, it's interesting. It's stupid, but it's interesting.
I had an idea that was kind of like an alternate. Let's talk about Leroy and Stitch.
Okay.
Despite it not being the main film that everyone. Well, it's not Lilo and Stitch, which is so much better. But I think Leroy and Stitch missed an opportunity. And so at the start of Leroy and Stitch, they're like, congratulations for collecting all the lost experiments and showing them their place in the world. And the grand ambassador, whatever she is, she gives them all, as you said, she gives them all a reward. So you went over them before. I'll just quickly recap. Jumba gets the keys to his lab, which he used to be banished from. Pleakley gets to be like a college professor and teach Earth studies, and Stitch gets a big red battleship to be like a space fighter. And they're all really excited, and then Lilo's like, wait, so you guys aren't going to come back to Hawaii? And they all kind of look at her sheepishly, and they're like, actually no, yeah, we'll come back to Hawaii. And then within the next maybe 5 to 10 minutes, Lilo learns to like she should let them go because it's their lives and their decisions. So she lets them go. They go off, and it just all culminates in the Leroy plot. First of all, there's no reason they couldn't come visit her. They never like addressed why they couldn't even come back or why they had to stay.
Yeah, right.
But also, I do wonder if maybe there was a missed opportunity here to do a story where that plot of Lilo not wanting to let them go actually is the entire character arc of the film, and it actually ends with them leaving. Like, weave the Leroy stuff back into the plot so that they're called off to this adventure. But I do wonder if it would have been more impactful, because otherwise each film kind of has the same ending. Ohana's important. Stitch and Lilo,
family.
Stitch and Lilo belong. They're the love of each other's lives. In a cool way.
In like a friend's way.
Yeah. Or like
There's actually a really good video we say
Ohana.
about friends being love.
Yeah. Well, do you know what it's called? Do you know what channel posted it?
If you gave me enough time to think about it, but I know you know. What was it called?
I think it's called Screen Prism. Go check it out. It's pretty cool. I do wonder, like, would it have been more powerful to actually say the message of Leroy and Stitch is if you love something, let it go? Because there is that kind of, it is literally a TV series finale, so there's that finality to it. There's that feels very much in the spirit of Ohana and Aloha as well, as they talk about, of hello and goodbyes. There was a good Nani sort of talks to her and says, like, Aloha. Yeah, it's a circle. It means hello and also means goodbye. So it's about that being able to let go. And that's good. No, I feel like Leroy and Stitch should have ended with Stitch leaving Lilo.
Maybe not Stitch, but
no, like not forever, but. I'm going to go live my life that I've dreamed of all my existence.
Yeah, but I guess like the whole like plot of the TV series is like finding your rightful place, and the whole point is that Lilo's and Stitch's is together.
Fair enough. Okay. What was the line?
Just cut that whole part out.
So yeah, we talked about Aloha briefly. You just watched it. Do you remember what the lead villain, Dr. Hamsterville's badass line is at the end of Leroy and Stitch? He like says, he's like, Aloha! And in this case, I mean goodbye, or something like that. Is it like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so badass. I was like, this is such a cool line.
Really?
I thought it was cool.
Tear it to shreds.
Like, it was cool. It was like it was a great way to kind of like bring it back in kind of a devious either way, because a lot of people, one of the jokes in Leroy and Stitch is no one really understands Aloha because it's hello and goodbye, and that's so confusing.
Yeah. A hilarious joke made years earlier by Miscongeniality.
Was it?
Yeah, there's a bit where
I don't know if Miscongeniality lays claim to that joke.
To pointing out the similar. There's a bit in Miscongeniality because she's in a what's it called, like a Miss World competition, and there's like she's still gonna miss Hawaii, and she's like, Aloha means hello and goodbye, right? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, does that get confusing? Like, when you're on the phone and you want someone to go, so you're like, Aloha, and they're like, yeah, hello, and they keep talking.
Nice.
I think it's like there's a real awkward situation, and she's diffusing it by saying that. So it's the emotional climax of the film.
In the credits of Leroy and Stitch, it lists all 620 4 other experiments.
Do you want to see if I can name them all?
Yeah.
All right, Richter, Sample, Angel, Reuben, Spike. Those are all real experiments. You can look that up.
Yep. I tried to look it up. I was like, surely they don't cover 624 others because it's a big number. It's not. It's like if it was like My Name Is Earl was like 250 things on his list.
Yeah.
And they didn't
Which is
finish.
ambitious.
Yeah. But I tried looking up and I went on Stitchipedia and I read an article that said that the numbers, so the 0 series is something, the 1 series is something, and it's basically, so there's 100 except for the 6 series, which there's only 20.
Supposedly perfected it with stuff.
Yeah. So there's only 29 of the 6 series, which are like doomsday creatures, but all the other creatures fit into this category depending on what the first number is. And then it was this list of literally 629 experiments. Yeah. They all had pictures, they all had names, they all had like the episodes they appeared in, and then I was like, this is amazing. Where did they fit this into 60 odd episodes? And then I scrolled right to the bottom of the page and the top comment was, this is bullshit. They were like, this is just fan fiction. You shouldn't put this on Stitchipedia because this is just fan art. So apparently, like, they just drew. I didn't look at all the pictures, obviously.
That's cool, though.
Yeah, I encourage the fan art of it.
There's some that are only in the anime.
Oh, okay.
But they they fill the gaps kind of thing.
Okay.
And
there are also mistakes I was reading. Like
Yeah.
certain ones have 2 different numbers or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, there is a definitive list of the number of.
Yeah,
of
I think they took the names from Lilo.
Yeah, so
Leroy Stitch.
the names are out there, and most of them you can kind of, because they're all called like Sparky. That was another one. You know, you can figure from that he's electrical. Richter kid somehow has something to do with earthquakes, but he's got
one of them was
tail.
called "I Know You Are, But What Am I?" That was his name, and he could mimic people.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, this is like a yeah, I was like so excited that there was like this show. I was like, I have to watch this show. They fit over 500 creatures into under 100 episodes.
Yeah, I was gonna, as a hilarious meme, watch the show in preparation for this podcast, but then I realized it's literally 24 hours worth of content, and I still probably could have done it, but I didn't want to.
That's okay. Because I was like, I wonder what number 1 was. That's what set me off on this journey to try. Number
1 doesn't even appear on the show.
No, yeah. Number 2 does.
Yeah.
That's what I found out. There's also a 0, so technically...
Yeah, that's not canon to the Disney series, I think.
Okay. So, I was thinking maybe, like, at some point when we start the off-week podcast again, do, like, a follow-up episode where
I watched the series.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Maybe something like that. I don't know, because I feel like there's enough information that we're not going to be able to deliver talking about the movies.
Yeah. Can we talk for a little bit about what Lilo and Stitch means to our friendship? We referenced it.
Oh, yeah, man.
Referenced it last week.
Go hard.
So, about 18 months ago, AJ came around to my house and asked to be my best friend. And...
I touched your hand as well. I was going to say something dirtier, but we wanted this to be like an entry-level episode, so didn't want to alienate.
I thought you were going to be like, it was 20 months ago. Yeah, so AJ came
and
around.
I didn't ask, I begged. Okay, so get your facts right.
AJ asked in very explicit terms to be my best friend, and because I was drunk, I I didn't disagree, but anyway, then... like a week or 2 later, we were just hanging out and talking about Lilo and Stitch. I was like, oh yeah, like Leroy and Stitch. And he was like, oh man, he's like, I love that you're probably the only other person that I know that is able to just like offer up the information that Leroy and Stitch is that the 4th Lilo and Stitch movie is called Leroy and Stitch. And then, so he was impressed by my knowledge of Lilo and Stitch. And then about a week ago, AJ messaged me on Facebook and he was like, man, these films. So the release order is Lilo and Stitch, Lilo and Stitch 2, and Leroy and Stitch. And then I was like, yeah, no, I was literally just explaining this to Kieran, who was guest starred last week. I was chatting to him at work, and he was like, what the fuck? Why'd you look it up? Because one of the rules of this podcast is that one person does the research of it. And I was like, I just know the chronology of Lilo and Stitch because I've seen the show and I'm a big fan of the series. So the the knowledge of Lilo and Stitch that initially sort of formed this friendship almost tore it apart.
And then I'd also like to explain what happened after that, just for my fragile ego here, is that Richard then, well, actually, during that, my little research bout, that when I was talking to Richard then, I also was like, I wonder if I could watch the show, like all of the show, like how long could it possibly, I was like 13 episodes a season, surely. No, there's 65.
Yeah.
And I looked it up and I was like, 65. So I did the maths and worked out that to watch all of them, you would have to spend 23.999 hours watching it. And then Richard, later, like an hour later, was like, oh, we should watch the show, but it would literally take 24 hours. And I was like, yeah, I know. And he was like, no, you didn't. And I was like, then I screenshotted my internet search history and sent that to him with the like time codes.
No, it never had time codes.
Oh, I didn't have time. That's right. But it had Lilo and Stitch the series, then just written numbers into Google, then correcting the numbers I wrote into Google because I put the plus in the wrong part, and then that whatever number that was converted into hours, and then above that was like this is like Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up, and like a series of like seemingly just videos that I'd looked at in my you know when you go on a YouTube binge, just this real sus list of videos above it. I was like, man, like such a random like thing to see in someone. Like, I have no idea what information you're wanting me to glean from looking at your search history.
Yeah, it's not the first time you've shown me a search history, and I won't go into the first time because
I remember that
doesn't bear repeating.
But
maybe we'll release that as a Patreon exclusive AJ search history.
What does bear repeating is
that I just found out that Corey in the House is actually called Corey in the House. I always thought it was duh, but that's just AJ. What is that?
That's your systemic racism.
And I just realized why. I know, well, part of the reason you were probably so annoyed at me bringing that up is that, again, this is supposed to be an entry-level episode of the podcast. And that's not only like a personal joke for like the podcast, but one that's like not even canon on the podcast yet. So the story behind that is this is the...
Go, just do it.
This is the third time, if you include this time, this is the third time that on podcast I've had the realization that that Corey in the House, what I always thought it was called, is actually just called Corey in the House, and that AJ's commented that it's my systemic racism. I've mentioned that in 2 separate episodes, thinking that I'd only just found it out and not mentioned it before.
And likewise for my retort. I think I just liked that I knew the word systemic.
Yeah.
No,
I actually think one time you said deep-seated.
Oh, no. You know why? It's because I couldn't remember the word systemic. What I did want to talk about instead of that wonderfully niche inside joke was titles.
Oh, yes.
Which we actually talk about.
Yep.
Say it.
Oh,
do the line.
We talk about titles quite often on this podcast.
And why is that, Richard? Why do we talk about titles as much as we do?
Because as a franchise, and I feel like as two of the experts on franchises...
Can you tell what I'm doing?
Are you doing a me?
Yeah, I'm doing this is my AJ impression.
Oh, nice.
Do you say like this isn't like this is I'm trying to embody the character, not just the voice.
Is that titles? A lot of people don't really put a lot of emphasis on them, but I feel like as kind of a film guy, I find they're very important because they're like the brand of your film, and as a quasi filmmaker, I don't see how someone could not put onus on that.
Yeah, it's important. I don't see why people don't think it's important because they clearly don't.
Proud of that.
And Lilo and Stitch is a great example of when people don't give a shit about their titles. However, I will give them some leniency because there were production mishaps. So just a quick reminder, the titles of the films are Lilo and Stitch, Stitch the movie, Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, Leroy and Stitch. I have no problem with the first and last movie titles.
I have no problem with 1, 3, and 4. Stitch the movie only really has a problem because the TV show isn't called Stitch. If it was, that'd be fine. But yeah, Lilo and Stitch and Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. Like obviously Lilo and Stitch is a great title. Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch is a very straight to DVD title, agreed. But like not in a bad way. It's just it's called
It reminds
Lilo
me
and
of
Stitch 2 and
how
has a subtitle.
They changed Edge of Tomorrow to Live, Die, Repeat. Like Stitch has a glitch. It sounds like a way to like a little bumper sticker on the film on the DVD, being like, "Stitch has a glitch. What is he gonna do?"
Right? Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't have a problem. And then Leroy and Stitch is a great title for the last episode of the series.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, Stitch the movie, I don't really have a problem with, because I remember it being like when it first came out. I remember sort of thinking like, this is a spin-off in a way, like it's kind of, you're not supposed to, it's not about the same caliber as the movie.
I agree, but it is just, Lilo's just as main of a character in it. Like, if it was more Stitch focused, I could forgive it, but it's...
Right, well, I guess because it goes a bit more into Stitch's backstory.
Yeah, but they all do.
Yeah, well, like the fact that all of his cousins and
right
stuff. Did you watch The Origin of Stitch?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, what did you think of it?
It was a little short film, by the way.
Yeah, it was on the DVD of Lilo and Stitch 2.
Yes.
And so it's supposed to bridge the gap in the timeline between Stitch 2 and Stitch.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a cute little...
Yeah, just this nice little... He like, goes into Jumba's room and sees a computer with all of his, like, cousins on it. He calls them his cousins, because that's the sort of thing of Stitch.
It's a Hawaiian thing. Yeah.
Everyone calls each other cousin. And, and then Jumba's like, hey... He gives him some motivational speech. And it's cute.
So as you mentioned up top, the reason for the movie being called Stitch the movie was because the show was originally going to be called Stitch the series, and this was abolished, and it resulted in them having mismatched names, which is even more confusing considering that Stitch with an exclamation point is the name of the anime. Yeah. But there was an original title for Stitch the movie, and that was Lilo and Stitch: A New Ohana.
That's stupid. I hate it.
You hate it?
Yeah.
I like it better than Stitch the movie. But like, no, it's not great.
As a title or as where it fits in? I reckon Stitch the movie is a better title. I reckon Lilo and Stitch: A New Ohana is a lame title.
Yeah, but
it fits more.
It fits more. That's what I'm going for. So I thought that the titles of two of the four films, as well as like the spin-off cartoons, really make Lilo seem irrelevant to the story, which I think sucks, because I actually really like a character. But I also quite like Leroy and Stitch as a title. I think that's clever because it subverts your expectations. So I was thinking, how could that be reflected in the other two movies? So these are the titles I'm pitching to you, Richard.
Just quickly, do you know what the naming, what's it called? The TV series, the episodes were just called like Richter. Here's
my alternate titles for the Lilo and Stitch series: Lilo and Stitch and Sparky with another ampersand in there. Oh my God. And Lilo and Glitch instead of Stitch as a glitch. Right. And then Leroy and Stitch.
I hate Lilo and Stitch and Sparky.
Why?
That's so stupid.
Why? Sparky's the main like alien they find in that one.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm telling the audience. I know you know.
I know you know everything about Lilo.
I don't know.
I think that's a real dumb title.
I just think you needed to keep that central Lilo and Stitch in the title, except for maybe the last one.
I don't know. To me, the best way to fix it would be to call the TV series Stitch the series, but then that kind of throws Leroy and Stitch out of whack.
Yeah, but also Lilo's not second fiddle in these films. Like, she's just as main of a character.
Yeah, I get
Stitch
that.
is the selling point. I get that. Like, he's the Rust Cole of the true detective that is like Lilo and Stitch.
My mum just texted me like 5 minutes ago saying, did you watch season 2 of True Detective?
I thought my mum just texted me 5 minutes ago saying
Stitch is the Rust Cole.
Stitch is the Rust Cole.
No, that's so weird. I mean, how often do people talk to me about True Detective?
Me every day.
Overrated series.
Hey, tell that to my tin collector's. I don't know where it is. I was looking around for it.
What is it?
I've got like the collector's edition of the first season.
Oh yeah,
I love that series. Anyway, that's all I had to say about titles.
All right, that's interesting. I think Lilo and Stitch and Sparky's dumb.
Yeah, but you often don't like my titles.
Yeah,
I don't take
Jurassic
it personally anymore.
Park B.
That was great. Jurassic Park B. That's such a good idea.
Waters.
Jurassic Waters. That's the best one.
No, well, I don't know if I recall. 2 out of 3 voted for Jaws Jurassic Park.
Let's do something now that we've never done before.
Let's
Richard.
not reference old episodes of the podcast.
Let's continue the franchise. Just kidding. We've done this heaps. So this is a segment on the show. By the way, if you can hear the baby Tui that's been driving us crazy for the past week outside my
It's
window.
been more than a week.
That I don't know if you can hear that, but it sounds like the Psycho.
It's and it's every 10 to 15 seconds, anywhere from 2 to 4 chirps, same note, 2 to 5 chirps, same note every time, 10 to 15 seconds, 24 hours a day.
Not 24 hours.
Well, it stops around 9.
5 a.m. to about 9 p.m.
Yeah.
There it goes now.
Boost that. Yeah.
So this is a segment where Richard and I are going to pitch our sequels, prequels, midquels,
That fucking bird, man.
to Lilo and Stitch. Going to try and continue the franchise. As stated, we've stated a lot, not just like offhandedly. The series has been continued in various ways, not just the movies, but the TV shows as well. As well as a couple of video games, including one on PS2 that I always wanted to play called Stitch Experiment 626, which is a prequel to the first film, and you play as Stitch, and you got to find all the DNA for Jumba's illegal genetic mutations. So it's set like before he's captured.
Doesn't make sense, but yeah.
Why Stitch could have existed before we see him arrested at the start.
Yeah, but he only finds out about the other experiments in Stitch the movie.
He doesn't. I don't think he finds about the experiments explicitly in this. He just knows he's collecting.
All right, well, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to play it, and I'm going to see where it fits.
We should get it. But I did read on Stitchipedia that there is a 700 series of experiments. But I don't know if that's true, since apparently Stitchipedia is a bunch of bullshit. All right, what's your continue the franchise? You go first.
Well, as I have had a few times, I've got kind of just a few sort of loose ideas. One is just to go back and finish the TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just keep making episodes, keep making another, 500 and something episodes of the TV show. Give us all of them. And another video game would be cool. Because they've got the anime and the Chinese
Stitch
anime.
and I.
Yeah.
It's not an anime if it's Chinese. Yeah.
There's room for more kind of stuff there. I was trying to think of an actual story that I want to see in this universe, and there's not really. So the last time we saw all the characters, they've rescued all the experiments. They're all happy, and it ends on a very tying a bow on it. Yeah. So you could do like, a threat comes to Earth, and all the experiments have to band together or something like that. But I'm just not really interested.
Yeah, it's weird. I really wish. I wish they didn't go straight to DVD. Almost, I wish they made more theatrical sequels. They were of the same quality.
I like the idea of more stories in this world.
Yeah, just can't think of any.
Can't think of anything. Either that, or they'd have to all be in between.
Yeah,
there's one thing we haven't talked about.
Time
I
jump.
want to mention about.
Yeah.
In Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch is a glitch. That Stitch dies. That's interesting.
And comes back because of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also sorry to interrupt the continue the franchise, but there's also a kind of sweet moment in that so throughout the whole movie, Lilo just like doesn't notice that Stitch's like eyes go all fucky, and he is like doing these horrible things, and she just thinks he's like being a nuisance. But then, and Stitch like feels so bad, he like isolates himself, and Lilo's got this important dance coming up, and Stitch like comes out of the bushes, and he's like, I'm sorry, I haven't been myself. I just want to support you, but I have to go. And Lilo's like, can you just fuck off? Like, Stitch, you're being such a dick lately. And then Stitch like glitches out and scratches her on the face. And, like someone like Sarah from Land Before Time would be like, you're the worst person I've ever met. Me, blah, blah, blah. But Lilo's like, Stitch would never hurt me. I now know that something's wrong, which I thought was quite a cool moment.
So is that you'll continue the franchise? Like,
it's just that scene.
the world having a better understanding of Stitch's complex characterization.
Yeah.
We're getting real abstract with these continue the franchises lately. My continue the franchise is, I don't know, I haven't put much thought into this.
Yeah.
Other than wanting to see, more. I like the idea of like a tourist, maybe like a live action film. You don't even know it's a Lilo and Stitch sequel, coming to Hawaii and just finding all the experiments and being like, oh my god, like kind of like a horror movie.
No one cares.
Yeah, a horror movie where like he goes to this town and everyone's happily living in peace with all these aliens and
Yeah, there's you see it in Leroy and Stitch, but there's one experiment. I don't think it's an episode of the TV series, or I can't remember it anyway. But there's like, or it might be just like one of the quick montagey ones. But he's like a giraffe. He's got a real long neck, and his head is a stoplight, and it's like so it's got a red and green thing. So what the hell else could that have been created for? Like, how hard would that be to find his purpose?
yeah.
Like, all right, well, his head looks like a stoplight,
Well, maybe
and he
they're-
can use it at the exact same function.
Maybe there were heaps of ones like that, and that's why we only saw 100 odd
Yeah.
episodes, because it's like there's
Actually, no, it'd be cool to do like, as my continued franchise now, as like web shorts of like just 5 minute of like just this is what happened.
what about an encyclopedia?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, actually, no, that's a cool idea. Like an official encyclopedia release that documents all 626 and what Lilo and Stitch did for them.
Cool.
That's the first time my continued franchise has been a book.
Oh, nice, dude.
Actually, or just like my continued franchise is just like a canonical Stitchopedia.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, so that about wraps up our main
queso, like the
discussion
cheese.
of Stitch and Lilo.
Classic.
How dare you? They just called the sequel Stitch and Lilo.
That'd be so funny.
Where-
Or do like a reimagining of Lilo and Stitch that it's just like all the characters are flipped.
Yeah.
So it's like Lilo just gets blasted out into space for some reason and everyone just thinks she's this freak. But then Stitch is like, what's this? And he's like, Iki Baba means Mista la Cuista.
Yeah. So if you're watching this on whatever, or listening to this on whatever app of your choosing, you may notice that there's maybe a little bit left at the tail end of that. Don't worry, we don't ramble on. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap up the show here and then go into fan mail. If you're new to the show, I don't expect you to listen all the way through to the fan mail. Anyway,
But I mean, if you want to.
Yeah, you can
And
if
if
you
you want to leave your own fan mail.
yeah, please. So usually at this point in the show, we do something called Franchise Roulette, which is where we decide on our next... Well, we don't decide. We randomly select our next episode. But this time, we're going to be a little secret, boys.
Little Christmas boys.
We're going to be doing a Christmas-themed episode next fortnight.
And this year, it's getting released.
Well, we haven't recorded it yet. Anything could go wrong between... In fact, something's already gone wrong. That we'll talk
True.
about next week.
But I don't think it'll be on the same caliber as last year.
No, the Patreon exclusive episode.
Yeah. If we ever get a Patreon, you guys are going to have
This is the
something to look out for.
$1,000. We'll describe it and let people pay us $1,000 to listen to it.
Yeah.
I'd let people listen to that for
I think,
$1,000.
Yeah.
I think
Are we going
$1,000
to
is
officially announce what happened last year next episode?
We-
Or like, is it ever going to be
I don't know.
officially made canon?
What a sizzling little hint. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Anyway,
New listeners back for next week.
yeah,
Next
so
fortnight.
usually on the show, we draw a random number and that number correlates to a franchise and we watch it no matter what it is, but we're not doing that this time.
We're actually doing something that wasn't even on the list.
Exactly. And also, this is going to be our last episode, next episode's our last episode of the year. There will be a small break in film franchise Fortnights, but the Cult Pop Show podcast in between is actually coming back to bridge that gap.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing just fun things.
Yeah.
We've got like a year wrap up and looking forward to the year, and a very special episode which I organised, and then a less special episode which AJ organised.
Well, I haven't done it yet.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't even know if
and those episodes are going to be on SoundCloud and iTunes exclusively, and Stitcher, I guess. So if you're listening to this on YouTube,
Lilo and Stitcher,
head on over to Lilo and Stitcher.
Libsyn and Stitcher.
To listen to those ones if you haven't already. Anyway, we're Cult Pop Show. If you like what we've been talking about, you can find videos and more podcasts and just discussions on our Facebook and YouTube
Mad
page.
Scushies.
Mad Scushies. On our Facebook and YouTube page, we've also got a Twitter that we're starting to be more active on. I tweeted a tweet today. No one even looked at it as
I
far
saw
as
that.
I
It was
know.
an interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, yeah. So the tweet was, "What if Inhumans is just a shitty TV show in the Marvel series? You just have someone watch it during Infinity War." And I was like, it's a very front page of Reddit kind of, or like.
So anyway, yeah, please like us on and if you listen to this podcast, send us a message. Send us, like, even if you've never sent one before, I'm going to be reading out some comments in a second. Send us a message. Tell us what you think. Tell us what franchises you want us to do. We won't do them, but
if they're not on the list, we will add them to the list.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, thank you very much.
Good luck trying to think of one that's not on the list.
Thank you very much for listening, and now we're going to move into fan mail. Get it? Because it's film franchise Fortnights fan mail.
Oh, nice.
Fan mail. I did too many.
M.
Yeah.
Best group sex scenario.
Yeah. So on our 101...
That was really funny, AJ.
Yeah, it was good. On our 101 Dalmatians episode, someone named Yuri Bartleby commented, "I liked the fireworks. It made the whole thing feel festive and chill, like a jovial war podcast." This is very nice. Thank you, Yuri.
Yeah, also, I want to just defend myself. On the 101 Dalmatians podcast, I've had a few people mention that I was being a little bitch with the fireworks because they were that loud. They were so loud on the
I back
night.
you up. I back you up.
Like, it didn't come across in the podcast, which is good because it would have been horrible to listen to otherwise. And there was a few that legitimately gave me a fright, but I actually thought the podcast was going to be ruined. So I'm glad I wasn't. But it is funny that I do come across like a little bitch.
I replied, "Thanks, Yuri. I'll pass this feedback on to Richard and we'll see if we can get fireworks in every single episode from now on." We don't, but we do have a baby Tui to squawk at you. Squawk's the right word to describe this bird.
What are we going to have next week?
I can't say, it's a secret.
We'll have...
Silver bells?
Yeah, just carolers at the door.
And I asked where Yuri was from. Yuri said, "I'm from Quebec. I discovered your stuff fairly recently, and though I've got to say I've mostly been listening to FFF and have slowly been branching out, I have no TV or subscription service, so I'm hopelessly uncool and not up to date on my pop culture. Semi-old movie franchises are my wheelhouse. Thanks for asking, man. I appreciate that, especially since YouTube is probably not your primary repository. I think it's cool that you respond to people on here. Your enthusiasm is what made the fireworks work."
Nice. That's very nice.
That was very nice, and I love that we're reaching Quebec.
And I told Yuri, fuck you, we don't.
I told him to get us some other Quebec listeners, and we'll do a Canadian tour. And I also said that if what, you're looking at me like I'm not going to Canada?
No, I was like,
not again.
No,
you didn't know Quebec was in Canada?
That's it.
It's okay. I had to look.
Like, of course it is now, but I think because his name is Yuri, I was picturing Russia.
Yeah. And I also said if semi-old movie franchises are your wheelhouse, then this is definitely the podcast for you. On Instagram, our new exclusive Instagram commenter, Mark Frisch of Arkadu. Mark Frisch-Vakadu. Mark, is that how you pronounce your last name? I don't know. He said on the 101 Dalmatians episode, "Love the new logo, guys. Audio was shite this week." Just kidding. Great app. And on Facebook, our great old friend Brent Taylor said, "I had no idea V for Vendetta was so big in New Zealand that fireworks would be brought in for the occasion. The only movie we Americans celebrate every year is The Patriot, the one starring the anti-Semitic lethal weapon star, not the one starring the woman grabbing under siege star." Then on the Dungeons and Dragons episode on YouTube, frequent commenter Tim Tabor123 said, "An idea for an episode I had. What defines a franchise? Could Pixar movies, for example, be grouped together in a franchise since they cover certain themes like feeling obsolete, what if blank had feelings, and a unified visual flair, cartoony CGI animation, with a couple of rotating auteurs such as Brad Bird, Pete Docter, or..."
We won't say his name. Kevin Spacey, Hopper.
And I replied, "Yeah, that's a great topic."
Did A Bug's Life?
I think it was Lassiter.
Stars Spacey. So. Is that the most affected piece of media?
Maybe. I said, "Yeah, that's a great topic and something we talk about quite a bit, like do implied cinematic universes count as franchises? We usually include spin-offs when we do these, like Puss in Boots and the Shrek series, and we've done franchises of spiritual sequels like the Red Curtain trilogy, and Blood and Ice Cream is on the list as well. But like Tarantino and Pixar movies are as well implied to be set in the same universe, not as each other, but as the movies within them. But they're separated in their own franchises. Which we've covered. We've covered both the Pixar franchise and the Tarantino franchise. Definitely a point of discussion. That's probably going to be the end of how much we're going to discuss it on this episode, but it is a...
Yeah, there's...
I think we are admittedly very fluid with what we want to watch in a certain franchise episode.
Yeah.
Like, for me personally, I would argue that doing the Nolan Batman trilogy as its own thing would be more interesting than doing every Batman movie, for example.
Yeah, but then with Spider-Man...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's no rules to it. It's just whatever we think is going to make a good
because
episode.
with Spider-Man, I remember thinking that either of these are half as interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do Raimi's, but I think the thing was because we got Raimi, and then I was like, we should do the web duology as well, because if we get that one, it's not going to be as interesting.
Yeah.
Having said that, I did talking about like what should we watch and stuff like that, because like SpongeBob SquarePants, we watched 2 TV movies, and like Lilo and Stitch as well. The one sort of like different one that we have on the list, and I don't even know if I've actually discussed it with you out loud, but when we get Death Note, I've put on there that we have to watch the anime.
Oh, that's great that you just signed me up.
Well, okay, so the anime I watched in 2 afternoons. It's amazing, and it's interesting with that one because none of them, there's like, the movies have like 2 or 3 different iterations of the story, but none of them are like the good one.
Right.
So I want to watch like the good one, and then...
Well, stay tuned for that. Someone did comment for us, it might have been Tim actually, I can't remember.
Yeah.
To do the Death Note series.
Yeah, because So yeah, I thought that was interesting because I was like, I actually genuinely want you to watch the anime. I'm not even an anime guy. Just Death Note is really good.
Don't say you've liked the anime if you haven't read the manga. Brent also commented on the D&D episode and said, I remember when D&D came out in theatres. I was bummed that it was promoted as a fantasy movie as opposed to a movie about the game. If you could do a movie where kids play the game and the things they are playing happen in real life, it would be great, but then we'd complain it was a knockoff of Jumanji. Edit. Oh crap, you'll continue the franchise is the same thing as I said. And I said, great minds think alike, Brent. And then on Instagram,
That's great.
Mark Free Shavakadu said, continue the franchise. I agree. Do a movie where a bunch of kids are playing a game of D&D. Halfway through the movie, they lose their dice under the fridge and have to use one of their dads. Plot twist: the dice is magic. After already cutting back and forth from the kids in the story and the game, then maybe the mum and dad save them. Brought to you by imdb.org. Thanks for another great episode, guys. And then I just asked him a bunch of boring questions about how he listens to the podcast. But that's our fan mail for this week, and that's the episode for this week. Please get in contact with us. You can actually email us as well. I forgot to mention on cultpopturemedia@gmail.com, or send us a message on any of our social platforms. Like, please do. Like, we love knowing that people listen.
Just add us on Facebook.
Add me on Facebook. My name's Richard Martin. Add me on Facebook. But other than that, that is the show for this week. That is the show for the one time I put my phone on the table. The whole episode.
Did you get out all your stuff? Because I remember you showing me you had a veritable novella of
I got all the stuff out.
Oh, good on you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening, everybody.
Thank you, and we'll see you next week for a very special film franchise Fortnights Christmas.
Ohaya, Nahia.
Hawaiian roller coaster ride. So give me reason.